stand up.
Hey guys, welcome to today's show where I have comedian Ophira Eisenberg interviewing comedian Jackie Kashian, and it is a delightful, hilarious, smart, great conversation. I think you are really going to like it. I'm continuing on my staycation this week, and I am sitting out the podcast most days and letting folks sit in for it. There's just a lot of people that, believe it or not, don't have podcasts yet, but are thinking about it or would just want to interview this person or that person. So, of course, earlier this week, SE Cupp talked to Dr. Steven Hassan about cults, and everybody loved that. And I think you're really going to love Ophira Eisenberg with Jackie Kashian today. Of course, Jackie has been on the show one time before with me, and Ophira is, of course, on the show almost every week. But listening to the two of them talk to each other, I thought was so interesting. These two brilliant, thoughtful, hilarious women talking about comedy, about life, about family, about their challenges, and I learned so much, and I laughed a lot too. There's a lot of laughs in this conversation. Jackie has been doing stand-up for over 35 years. She has several albums, and she stand-up albums. Most recently, you got to check out Staycation, where you can get that available anywhere. She co-hosts a podcast with my friend Lori Kilmartin, who's joined me several times. She also has been hosting the podcast Dork Forest for 16 years, since 2006, where she talks with people about what they love to do, think about, and collect. And I think you're going to love Jackie and Ophira together. I am going to take the night off from the stand-up hangout because I'm totally punching out and trying to do a whole bunch of different things, live a little differently this week, get out of my routine, out of my, quote, comfort zone. We will be back to the regular full show and our hangouts next week. I miss you guys. I appreciate your support. If you haven't signed up for a subscription, please do. Here 5 days a week, talking to the most brilliant people we can find, and go to standupwithpete.com right now. Okay, that's it. Time to listen to Jackie and Ophira. Like I said, I listened to this whole conversation. I loved it. Take it away, Ophira.
Thanks, Pete. So this is Stand Up with Ophira. That's right. I'm Ophira Eisenberg, and guess what? I've taken over Pete's show because he's taken a week off, and he is hanging out doing, as far as I could tell, landscaping. He's taking a week off to do landscaping.
But still wanted content, Ophira.
But still wanted content. Joining me is comedian Jackie Kashian. You may have thought, why is Ophira Eisenberg on another mic? And I will get to that in a moment. I will get to that in a moment.
Oh, Toronto.
But I'm so happy, Jackie, to talk to you, but also when Pete said, listen, I'm going to take a week off. I'm going to have some people do some stuff. Who do you want to talk to? And I will just say that when I think of that, I go, well, who do I want to talk to, sort of formally? Like, who would I like to, I don't know, who am I curious about? Who would I like to get some extra kind of information from about their lives? And then there's that column, but then there's column B. Who would I like to talk to?
Right. Let's just talk in real life sometimes, and then this can be an interview for us.
And I will say that you fit both of those places.
Both columns.
So I'm psyched. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad. I wasn't sure actually where I was going to catch you because you were driving, and I also know that you're going to Austin, right?
I am. Every other year. You know what? Did you do Austin last year?
I did. I haven't done it I would think it was right before the pandemic.
Okay, so it's been a couple of years. Here's what the people that are going are beloved by me. But I want all the people that I love to go every year. And then it'll be like camp. But sadly, it's who's there? It's Guy Branum. Guy Branum's going to be there. Otsko's going to be there. And then I'm doing a live Dork Forest. So
awesome.
With Chris Cubis, local hero, stand-up comic, Chris Cubis from Austin, Texas. The three of them will panel, and I've decided usually we talk about whatever dorkdom, but whoever comes up with the first dorkdom, I sort of build a panel live show off of that, if there's going to be more than one guest. And Chris Cubis said wrestling, food, the preparation and consumption of, and something else I can't remember. And I don't know anything about wrestling, and I don't think Guy or Otsko do. But food, who doesn't love food?
I mean, so I love food. I, over the course, I always watch the baking show because it's the baking show, and even before everyone discovered on the pandemic. Yeah, exactly. But then I kind of got into other food shows, and then I stopped watching them. Let me tell you why.
Why?
Because no one just makes something on a cooking show. They all have to have, and I get it, it's television. They all have an angle. It's all a competition. There's all something going on.
Well, it's so weird with these shows where you stare at your face for the whole time, where I'm just like, I've taken up more mugging. I've even done a little small mime. I've taken up a little bit of internet mime. I gotta be crushed. And so, but the, yeah.
Yes.
Have you ever seen Rick Stein's? Rick Stein is British Rick Steve, but he does food.
Oh yeah.
So he's a bit of an old blowhard. Though Rick Steve isn't an old blowhard, he's a soft-spoken travel teaches. He's another PBS guy, right? It feels like, but Rick Stein is a British dude. And my favorite thing about Rick Stein is and this is my favorite thing to cringe to Rick Stein, because sometimes, I would say 70% of the time, Rick Stein's weird Mediterranean adventures, he's going to the Far East, he's going somewhere. It's great. But what he brings with him, a lot of people, gutsy move, by the way, Rick Stein, the British Empire. He brings colonialism.
Colonialism, yeah.
With him. Like literally, he was in India and he said, if it wasn't for British colonialism, you wouldn't have potatoes. And the Indian person that he was speaking to was like, yeah, would have traded that. We could have just had trade.
We'll just not do potatoes then.
Yeah.
How about that? Does he say with a smile, or is it sort of like consistently like, here are the facts? Is he a factual speaker?
It's earnest. He's earnest about it. He's not being smug. He's not being a dick about it. He's just being a dick about it. Like he doesn't even know about it. Like it's almost like, are you my uncle? Right? Like it's like, it's not my dad. My dad would do it with a smirk, and he would know that he was being a dick. But my stepmother had some relatives who you were like, oh, you're just dumb. All right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Right. She was the smartest woman in her family, though I do like my Aunt Pam. Anyway,
I have some family members that people have said to me, like friends who have met them would say, wow, your brother is very sarcastic. And I'll have to explain to them, there's no other mode. Like, you're not seeing a quality. That's the whole thing.
Right. I just talked to my brother. I have 4 brothers, and 2 of them are the ones that I can talk to a lot. And the other 2, Scott doesn't talk, and Terry only has the Jesus. But my brother Russ today, 50, the definition of romantic comedy movies, pre-1980, and why it all fell apart. Anyway.
Oh, so a lot of soul searching. Sounds emotional.
yeah, and we look back at it, and I actually, he's so funny because he's probably 60 now, 61, and he was talking to me about, I was telling him that our other brother, my brother Phil, had asked our father, who are in South Milwaukee, if he had any regrets. And my father, who has been married 3 times and has 6 children and has a lot of things happening, not even a heartbeat, just said no. And my brother Russ was like, remember what Henny Youngman said to that? He said, I wish I had ordered the fish. He was like, I wish Dad would have at least said that.
Just like one thing.
Just anything.
That's interesting that he asked your dad that. Why do you think he asked your dad that? I mean, that is such a inside actors studio,
Phil is the inside the actors studio guy. Phil was emo before emo was cool. My brother Phil will drop a hat to cry. He will try to drop up a hat. He won't even be wearing a hat. He'll borrow that hat so that he could drop it.
So he can drop it.
Yeah. He is.
And let the tears fall into it.
The dude he's available emotionally. He is there for you. And making him, by the way, a super sweet guy. He's a really good egg too. Both of my brothers are. And the other thing my brother Russ said today that made me laugh and because you know how like you do something as a man or you do something as a white person and then you would like a small statue. And he told me essentially when he, and I have comparable stories of like, I remember when I realized I was an adult. So, but his thing was when he realized that he had a position of power that he could take advantage of young women if he wanted to. And he was 23. This is, here's the funny part of it. He was the regional manager of Rocky Rococo's pizza place in Iowa.
Oh yeah. I can see some power there. I can see leveraging that.
And he was in his office and like a 19-year-old worker of his came in, like one of his employees comes in and sits on the desk. And he was like, she was pretty and she was bored. And I said, this isn't happening. Whatever this is, go to work. And you know, he teaches intro to econ. He teaches different. Mm-hmm. And so he has young people that he mostly bosses. He has no qualms about bossing them around, but he will not take advantage of them. And this is something that is nice. And he doesn't deserve a statue for it, but it is nice to know that none of my brothers are creeps. They're just jackasses.
It's, you know, that does remind me. I love that. And I love that he told them, he said, see how I learned that I could use power, but I didn't. And perhaps I would like a parade, maybe just a song. But it's also like, it reminds me of, it's a Chris Rock joke that's sort of reminiscent of the Chris Rock joke about, you know, like you're not supposed to do heroin. Like, you know, you should never get applause for something you weren't supposed to do it in the first place.
And the reason Russ told me that story was literally to say that like some people don't have that moment. And you're given this option in your early 20s often where you are given power and you either take advantage of it or you don't. And he's like, you have to sort of be taught not to do it. You have to sort of rise to that occasion. You have to not be that guy. You have to decide what kind of adult man do you want to be for the next 60 years, right?
You know, it was a few weeks ago, I got off stage and as I was walking to the back, a guy said to me, you're really funny and you're cute. And I will admit to you, Jackie, as a woman who is married with small child, and of a certain age, I suppose, I don't get, that doesn't just happen often.
Right.
Okay. So I was a little bit like, this is actually, my thought was like, God, there's something weird in the air. Like people are desperate and stuff right now. And then I left the showroom and I saw some comics and I was like, do you guys feel like there's like an air, like maybe a post-COVID air where people are just, you know, out there and they're flirting extra special? Because this guy just told me I was cute. And one of the comics said to me, and just remember, that's where it ends, right? Because if you do anything else with that, that is going to be, that's going to ruin your life for the rest of your life. And I was like, are you speaking to yourself? Or are you
note to self is what you're saying, right? I'll tell you a weird thing that did happen in sort of the same vein, because it felt like after I said it, it's a weird thing to have said to somebody. I'm walking the dog. I'm a block away from here. There's an Amazon Prime truck parked and the guy is eating lunch in the truck. And I say to the guy in the truck, I just want to say, I yell, hey, I just want to thank you for your work. What on earth?
That's great.
Anyway, he looked up at me and he had misheard me and he said, what the fuck? Anyway, welcome to Los Angeles. And I said, no, I'm not blowing smoke. I just wanted to thank you because it's kind of a thankless job and I just appreciate your work. And he goes, oh, I thought you said, why don't you get to work? And I was like, no, like I would ever say that to anyone on who worked for Amazon. Holy smokes.
Oh, I mean, that's just, yeah. Then you just are like, who else is saying that to you all the time? my friend.
Right. Is that your inner monologue? I am so sorry.
What was the moment that you knew you were an adult?
I used to do a lot of childcare, and I was babysitting a kid who was about 9, and we were in the kitchen, and she shook a soda, and she said, "Watch me open this." And I said, "No, because I'm going to have to clean it up." And she goes, No, it won't spray. I figured out a way. I promise. I said, not in the kitchen. Don't do it. Don't do it. She's like, it'll work. And I said, don't do it. And she did it. It sprayed everywhere. Not my finest moment. I put my hand on her shoulder and I pushed her and I made her sit in it. And then I threw a towel at her and I said, clean it up.
Yeah.
And she said, you pushed me. And I said, yeah. And then she said, I'm going to tell my mom. And I said, yeah, let's tell her the whole story. Let's see what happens. And, but I didn't babysit for that kid for like 6 more weeks because I realized in that moment that she gets to be the 9-year-old.
Yes.
And I don't get to actually push a kid into a puddle of soda and make her sit in it. I was like, fair enough. All right.
But did you babysit again?
I did. That same kid 6 weeks later.
Yeah, because that's how it works with babysitters. They're like, she does show up on time. So whatever.
Well, and I talked to Deborah about her mom about it, and she was like, oh, I might have done that. and I said, but I realized that I have to be the adult in this situation. But like other things, like the next time Caitlin did something like that, Caitlin, by the way, I think is 30 now and goes by Kate, and they are a they, them. Anyway, but at the time, the girl child that was Caitlin, we were driving somewhere and she goes, I'm going to litter. And I said, do not litter out of my car, out of my shitty 1989 Mazda 323 hatchback.
Yeah, standards.
Standards. And she goes, I'm going to do it. And I said, if you do it, we are not going to the mall to shake toys, which is one of the things I would take the kids to do. And she littered and I pulled around and her little brother goes, you knew she would do this. And then I made them both hug trees. I was a real fun babysitter. What a weirdo babysitter.
So, I feel like I have a child, yet I feel like other children they are repelled by me. Other children are repelled by me. I sort of feel like I am that bird that was handled by a human. And then the other birds are like, I could tell.
What a weird analogy. Oh my God. Pete, this is gold.
But it's like they can smell it on me or something. Like my own child and I get along, but we're together. But I feel like other children do not particularly like me. And I was it's spring break. So I was actually trying to do some help. So, because one parent was like, oh no, just drop Lucas off and he can like play with B all day. And I was like, well, I'll split it with you. That seems unfair because they're 6, they're monsters.
Right.
And so I said, I'll take them to the park in the afternoon. And then I picked them up, went to the park, and I just felt like that sweet child was not into me. And I think she thought I was mean.
Oh, interesting.
Because I was a little strict. I was like, we can't do that. We're not allowed to do that.
Here's a great outing at parents of small children with no money. Because the weird thing is the people I babysat for here in LA, they had a great deal of money. And I remember the first time I babysat for the 2 kids, the mom gave me $100 to take them to the movies. And this was in 2000. And I was like, what am I doing with this? What am I doing with this $100? So we go to the movies. We see a movie. We come out of the mall and the kids are like, well, we go into the movie. They're like, can we get popcorn and candy? And I was like, sure.
Yeah.
And then we come out and then they're like, well, can we go play video games? I'm like, sure. Can we get a toy? Probably. And we come home and I say to the mom, I said, here's the change. It was still like $25, $30.
Right, exactly.
And
where are you?
In Agoura Hills. It was in LA. But and she was like, wait, what did you spend it on? And I was like, well, I assumed, and I don't know I didn't say this, but I was like, I don't know, rich kids. Rich kids can have anything they want, right?
Right.
And right, if they want land, and you've handed me enough money for land, I'm supposed to buy them land, right? And she was like, no, it's just emergency money, Jackie. Just do the one thing and then come back. And I was like, okay. Dialogue. Anyway,
the kid is like holding a life-size stuffed koala. Like,
right.
That was okay.
So going forward, when we were all bored, and I spent a great deal. I spent several years with these children. I'd be like, "Do you guys want to go to Target and shake toys?" And they're like, "Yeah." And so we would go to Target and we would make fun of things. We would make fun of clothes. We would make fun of medical equipment. We would make fun of whatever, as we go. We would all
That's what
riff.
you did with the kids? You would just do like tight fives all throughout Target?
Well, and then we would go to the toy thing and I was like, what do you
Target crowd work with items? It's amazing.
Right. And I was like, what little prop comedy? And I was like, what do you want to look at? Because shiny plastic stuff, right? Let's all go look at the shiny plastic stuff. And they're like, well, let's go look at the action figures and the dolls and the toys and the cars and the sporting equipment. And we'd play catch a little bit with a ball. And I'm like, all right, do you guys want a soda? And then I would buy him a soda, and then we get back in the car, drive back. Real clock eater, super duper clock eater. $10 an hour. $10 an hour.
Clock eater. So you were saying that was early 2000s. Is that what you're saying? Okay. So, but as I was just reminding myself, you started Dork Forest 2006. Is that right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So around 2006, I will admit to Jackie, I was someone who said the following statement: podcast? You mean people are plugging a microphone into their computer, then talking into it, and that's like a thing? Yeah. All right. And there's no curating of that at all? All right.
At all.
Totally going to happen.
To this day, there's no curating.
There's still no curating.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking in 2006, like when you were, you're a guest-driven show, you're bringing on friends, of course, and talking about the stuff that they are passionate about and like to dork out about. But did you feel like people were like, what? No. What are you doing?
Right. Here's the good thing about everything I've ever done in my whole life. I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, that I did the podcast because it sounded like fun. And then everyone else was like, this is the way to get clicks. This is the way to get, you could fill rooms. And I was like, am I doing that? And they're like, well, no, you don't seem to be. But anyway, other people,
rooms.
Right. There will be a straight white guy who will slap your ass that will fill rooms with douchebags. And I'm like, that's fine. But luckily, I've always really liked doing it. Like, today's episode, because today is Tuesday, is with a guy named Pasha Motendi. I was like, I get the syllable right. And, but Pasha's a great guy. And, but his dorkdom is fragrance, perfume, potpourri,
really?
Adult man. Anyway, and I was like, are you Armenian? Because my people love fake Giorgio and the Cold War. And he said, I am Persian. And I was like, close. Anyway, so,
right,
but
neighboring.
And he, but he was great. He was actually, he has diffusers. He wears a cologne perfumey thing. He enjoys a potpourri. Dude wants to smell good, wants to smell other things that are good. So that's kind of neat. Yeah.
I mean, that's very interesting. I do remember that book. Is it Suskind perfume? Can't remember the first name of that author right
perfume.
now.
Jitterbug
I remember that was a huge hit. Oh my! I read every Tom Robbins book.
Yeah, it's why I take baths, Ophira.
Yeah. But there's only one smell I like right now, which is eucalyptus. Not a very hard scent, actually, to bottle.
Yeah, it is. Why do you have lesions? What's happening?
I have lesions. I don't know. There's something about it that makes me feel like it's going to be okay.
Oh, fair enough then. Then own it. Yeah.
Lavender. I feel like lavender and all that kind of stuff. But I'm not talking perfumes here. I'm talking like aromatherapy or whatever.
Yeah,
whenever I smell lavender. Yeah. Okay. You like it.
It's calming. I love lavender I love lavender oil in a bathtub, in a bath.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, just because it genuinely, I was told it was going to calm me down, and psychosomatic or not, congratulations, lavender. It does it. So I'd like to accept this on behalf of lavender.
Well done. Well done, lavender. Wait a second. This is something else I was going to ask you about. First of all, I have to come clean about something.
Okay.
Something that I'm using a public forum to talk to you about a personal thing.
Oh, hello.
Which is, and I want to tell you, I feel shame. And this is probably why, following this, I will sniff a lot of eucalyptus.
Okay, yeah. Do you want to get some at hand? Go ahead.
I wish I had some close by. So years ago now, pre-pandemic, which is like, I don't know, maybe now I'm talking 5 years ago, you roll into New York every once in a while to do shows. Actually, for the listeners, the way Jackie Kashian rolls into New York and does shows is like no one I've ever seen before. Because does she roll into New York and do, I don't know, 3 shows? No. She'll roll in for 3 days and do 16 shows. You are doing shows. I live here. I've never even heard of some of these shows, and they're good ones. They're not like open mics. They're like real high class secret shows I've never heard of.
Well, allow me to hook you up with my list if you want to. If you would like to work your town, anyway.
Yeah, it's just really very cool. So one of the times that you came, I was like, because I think I can be a little thirsty. Is the word you use? The word that we use for friendship, especially with comics, especially with female comics.
Oh, you want to hang? You want it to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you came to town and I was like, oh my God. So I think I was texting you like, hi, when are we hanging out? When are we going to go? Blah, blah, blah. And then I didn't hear from you. And so I had a little, I don't usually do this because I'm a polite Canadian who lives in fear that someone might not like me. And I texted you like, hey, if you don't want to be friends, can you just tell me? Because I find this excruciating. And you texted back, I have food poisoning.
Oh, God.
And you had food poisoning.
Wow.
You came to New York and ate somewhere and had food poisoning.
I ate a funny whelk. Here's the thing about social experiences and stand-up comics.
Stupid.
Right.
So stupid.
You're not wrong, but first of all, you are never alone.
I'm stupid. Got it.
You're not wrong. We're all stupid. But it's so funny about I was just thinking about this is because I've done comparable things. Like I think I did it to Patton Oswalt about 10 or 12 years ago. I was like, hey man, if you don't want to do this. And he actually was like, what just happened? And then he's had kind of a hard time hanging out with me since, and I don't blame him at all. You got to let it go sometimes. Sometimes you break it, and you didn't break it at all. Thanks. I just had food poisoning.
It was so funny.
Thing is, I want you to be my friend so bad. It's part of it because I think I'm from Wisconsin, and we have that same same thing. Wow, my alarm went off. Okay, weird. Anyway, so I was just about to look up the history of our chat to see if I could find that chat.
Oh, yeah. I think, I may have added a little hyperbole. I can't imagine me writing the word excruciating, but I think I've probably found something much later. There was probably 1,000 exclamation marks and ellipses and an emoji, poorly placed emoji was probably part of it. Yeah.
But, it's social. It's hard. It's very hard to be social. That's why
you are someone that has parties. You organize things.
I organize things. I am social. Maria always talks about how social I am. Here's where it kind of falls apart for me. And I will admit something because we're being vulnerable. I will admit that I do these comedy brunches, right?
Yeah.
And what it is it's a lot of people at lunch, which means that it's not necessarily real close one-on-one conversations. It's 6-8 people and everybody just kind of riffing it's kind of it has that green room after the show kind of vibe that I miss because I don't want to hang out after the show. I would like to fall over in a heap. I would like to lie down. So, but at brunch, I will do whatever. I'll hang out at 11 a.m. Are you kidding me? Come on, let's do it.
No, that's ideal. And the festivals can be like that too. You'll go for lunch or brunch with people.
Yep. And I will say that the reason I do so many sets in New York is because of Laurie Kilmartin. I try to do a lot of sets and always have, but the pressure of doing a podcast with Laurie Kilmartin and hearing that she did 16 sets at a weekend, and you're like, I don't even like you right now because of how many sets. And she's getting $100 a set because they're all at the different clubs.
Right.
And you're like, you could live there. You could live in New York and make $1,600.
Right. And actually make a living doing spots.
Yes. Doing spots. Not an amazing living, but a damn fine living. Something. People do it. Yeah.
Yep.
People do it. And
so, yes, you do a podcast. So you do Dork Forest podcast that you've been doing for, right. So if it's 2006, you've been doing that for, oh my 16. Goodness. Yeah.
This is the 16th year. And then Jackie and Laurie, we're in our 6th year, and which is amazing because it feels like we're barely friends. And Laurie didn't know. She didn't know that she was starting a friendship with me. And, she is my friend now. She can't get out of it.
Was there a point in the podcast that you were like, we're now friends?
No, at the beginning, she's just like, because it's very funny because Laurie will consistently say that she has one friend. And it is not me. It is her friend Cheryl.
So amazing.
You get a chance to talk to Laurie Kilmartin. Ask her about how great Cheryl is, because Cheryl's amazing. Cheryl does sound amazing. She's very, very funny, and she's a writer and producer.
Okay.
Very smart, very, very supportive, good egg, very funny, all the things that you want.
That's the end of it. Yeah,
that's the end of it. Yeah, why? Why branch out? And so, and this is my favorite story that I think my brother Russ would approve. It's a story about Dick Cavett. So I'm watching the Dick Cavett show, and he's interviewing Janis Joplin. And Janis Joplin is the shittiest looking 26 you've ever seen in your life. And he's interviewing her, and it's like the second or third time she's on the show. And he's like, why do you think you do music like this and not like Connie Francis or not like, Patsy Cline or not like this person? And she just kind of looks at him and she's like, okay, well, because we're different people, of course. And she's like, and the way I do music, I like to get under the song and just kind of wander around and sing from that place. She's like, it's like your stand-up comedy. And she turned it around on Dick Cavett. And it was easily the most brutal thing I've ever seen that she didn't do on purpose, or maybe she did. But she goes, it's like your stand-up. Your stand-up comedy is like up here. You don't ever really get underneath. It's very much just up here, just talking to people. And, and she's like, you see other comics and they get underneath it all. And I'm sure she's thinking of like Richard Pryor,
right?
Lenny, to some extent, Lenny Bruce at the time. And, but maybe Miss Maisel, she was real, wasn't she? Anyway.
Yes. I'm sure you have to deal with, that is like, women in comedy for the first, 10 years of doing stand-up, I would say, no one ever asked me anything at all because I was a woman in comedy. And then following that, all of a sudden I was asked, what is it like to be a woman in comedy? What is it like to be, how hard is it? And then we realized, we all basically said, and I know you've even said this outright in interviews, I'm not going to talk anymore about what it's like to be a woman in comedy. And now
listen
we are
to the podcast. Yeah.
Now it's we are plagued with. Is it just like Mrs. Maisel?
Is it like that, or is it like Hacks? Is it like, what is it like? Is it just like that thing that I saw? Can you hear the laughter? The story about Freddie Prinze. Anyway,
and do you watch it? They're like, do you watch it?
I don't watch it. I don't watch it.
Either do I. And now I will not watch it specifically because people will ask me, do I watch it? And I want to say no.
I do want to say no, and maybe I'll watch it secretly, and they'll never know. They'll never.
There's that too.
I did have an interview with a guy who said to me the other day. He said, I would be remiss in not asking you, and I said, probably not. And then he asked me about CK, and then I said, have you asked a straight white guy about CK recently? And he was like, oh. And I said, because you really should. And then I went on to answer the question anyway, because I'm a comic and I have the benitits. I have let me just talk about this. Yes. And of course, and my whole theory on all of those guys, right, Chris D'Elia and Jeff Ross and all those guys, is that the only punishment that they will ever have is their brand new fan base.
Maybe.
Well, the thing is you see those guys who go to see those shows. Yeah. And they're gross. Yeah. I was like, well, now your fans are all douchebags. Congratulations. You used to have the coolest fans in the world, CK.
So let's just have a little moment here talking about stand-up and the kind of stuff that is tolerated. I'm not saying so much, obviously we're talking with those guys, we're talking varying levels of sexual assaults.
Right. That's on the linear spectrum. They are very far down it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I am finding, and I don't know if you're noticing this, that there is a vibe. There's a vibe in some of the clubs right now where some of the mid-30s male comics,
the younger crowd.
I've only seen it with male comics thus far, but it's also, I will say, it's also because I am often still not on a lot of lineups with a lot of women. Yeah. So it's a lot of the guys, and they are doing, it is basically sexism and racism, it's a little, a bit of, I think that they're trying to show that they are skilled in the irony of what it is to throw
You're seeing
out.
Some of the newer guys are doing ironic racism still?
Ironic racism. And it's sort of the Don Rickles era where they're saying to, I
make fun of everybody.
It's like, where are you from? Pakistan? Or are you a cab driver or a software engineer? It's like that kind of stuff where I'm like, how is this happening? How is this happening?
Are they new 35-year-olds or are they 15 years in? Are they newer comics or they're in?
They're in. Yeah.
Here's the weird thing is that I have here in Los Angeles and you're in New York is I'm hearing the premises. I have actually heard a lot of comics do, and both men and women. I have not heard that. I have not heard the sexism and racism I'm gonna double down. I have not heard the doubling down. Yeah. What I have instead heard is 3 different comics in 2 different shows did Adderall and Ambien, being raised on Adderall, jokes. And I was like, and they're all 40, right? They're all 35, 40 years old because that was the generation that came up that were all raised on Adderall and Ambien. And I was like, oh. Which I think is an interesting, and now
super interesting.
Yeah, I was, because my theory on that is, of course, is that's why there were a lot of really good looking, pretty good comics in the early 2000s is because they had all driven themselves mad. Their parents had given them Adderall and Ambien, Adderall and all these, this cocktail of psych meds. And then they turned 18. They started doing mushrooms and LSD and drinking and smoking pot and hash. And then all of a sudden, because when I started, the best, and I was telling Lori this the other day, the 2 kinds of people who did stand up were the unattractive and the insane. And, or people who thought they were unattractive and the people who knew they were nuts. And so, but the artificially created insane with good dental, holy smokes, it created an entire generation of good looking.
And parents that seemingly love them and support them.
Dane Cook comes to mind. Dane Cook, because he has his early stuff. And I've seen him recently. Some of the stuff's very funny. He's just, no one should have to do stand up in the round. I don't know why he chose to do that. That was terrible. It's just where's the punchline going? So the punch, you're just spinning. And,
that's the metaphor right there. You're spinning around and around.
You guys got the setup. You guys get the punchline. You guys get the setup.
And he was the king of what then was very much ridiculed. I think best in the early years of Anthony Jeselnik has some old videos up somewhere where he would do a Dane Cook impression about the empty premises. He'd be like, it'd be like, you know what it's like when you are at a party and you just decide to take a nap in a mountain of coats? And everyone would be like, what? No, I've never done that.
Mountain of coats should definitely be the punchline. I have a joke that has, and it's it's just a throwaway line about how I don't smoke pot because I always wake up under a pile of coats. You have 7 to 9 minutes to talk to me. I'm not good with pot. Is the point of that joke?
Yes, that's good.
Because and Mountain of Coats, it's a funny image. And he had I remember a Dane Cook joke. It was about the first time he saw his dad's dick, and so it was a dick joke, and it wasn't a bad dick joke. It was a perfectly good dick joke, but it had so much shenanigans before and up to it. There was a lot of mugging. There was a lot of sort of gesturing. It was pre-Zoom, too, so there's absolutely no reason for all this mugging and gesturing.
Right.
And so I was like, when I saw the joke, I was like, okay, so the joke itself is... It's a dick joke, and I'm making a finger gesture. But
of how long it is, and just for our listeners, it was a small one.
It wasn't very big. Wasn't big. Anyway, so, but I will say that it was a setup. It was maybe a 3-line joke that he turned into a minute and a half bit. It was just too long. It was just too long. He just set up, punch, set up, punch.
Well, that's the Adderall and the Ambien telling him that his voice is worthy of all time that it could possibly take up. Yeah, and then the good-looking white male thing.
Right. The security.
The security.
Yeah.
When you just because you've brand new stuff out there right now. So you have a new album and special Staycation
because we were all home.
How great, by the way. Did that come to your mind, that title?
Yes.
Have you been saying it for a long time?
Initially it was going to be called Altercation, and then the pandemic happened. And are you kidding me? There's so many cations. There's vacations and staycations and altercations and explanation, whatever.
Exploitation. Can't wait for that vacation.
Yeah. And so, but my sister came up with the idea actually of the art. She was like, remember those
3D glasses,
those stock photos. And Then the artist, Jeffrey Tice, stand-up comic from Denver. I said, could you put masks on these people? And so he adapted that stock footage and put masks on them, and it was funny. So
it's great. Yeah. And it's a album and a special.
Same name, Altercation, both available free streaming everywhere, though you can feel free to Venmo me at Jackie Kashian. No, or buy the album or CD or DVD if you have those devices at JackieKashian.com. But I will say that here's the thing so that's a new hour. That's the hour that's out, and it's doing very well, and it's actually helping my road numbers, which is great. The weird thing about it, people in the audience have heard the jokes.
Right.
And so I have like 20, 30 minutes of new material.
That's a lot.
Is it 20, 30 minutes though? Or is it 17 or it will be eventually 17 is what I'm saying. Because it's a lot of setup. It's a lot of talk and I like it. I just, I was, how you're always looking for content to put up on TikTok and Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts and all the damn tickety talks and Twitters. And so I was pulling all these clips from old Conan's, every decent video I had. I was like, what about this 33 seconds? What about this 22 seconds? And some of the jokes that are on every single one of my albums are blessedly silly. Like amazingly, I enjoy them so much in retrospect, right? And my own material, I look at it, I'm like, well, where the hell did that joke go? And I don't want to do it anymore. What I want to do, Ophira Eisenberg, is write another one
I would like to write some silly, because it is troubled times, my friend.
It is so troubled times. The
Who
amount of
doesn't
people
want a
that come up
silly-
to me, like civilians, and say, I would love to come to a comedy show right now. I need comedy so badly. And sometimes I go, I don't know if you're going to find that at a comedy show.
Especially not if there's some banana heads doing ironic racism, bringing that old chestnut back. Like even Sarah Silverman and Zach Galifianakis, who invented ironic racism, by the way.
Yes.
In the alt comedy community of the late 90s, those two nailed it, right?
Yes.
100%. And then
100%.
everyone was like, oh, I'm totally going to do that. And then you're like,
no.
If you had been doing stand-up for 15, 20 years, I would trust you with that topic. I do not trust you with that topic. And then it just, shit.
So it's interesting that you say, because I like the silly too. And, I tend to always have I love doing personal stuff. I love getting a little dark, but I also just like everyone having a good time. I'm like, what can I do so everyone has a good time?
Yep.
And I know I like silly stuff too. I like stuff that's just silly and celebratory and stuff like people. Anytime someone does a detective joke, I'm so happy.
Ooh, gumshoes.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh. Have you heard James Adomian's joke about the old miner at the beginning of like whenever it's a ride at like the fair or something where it's like there's always like an old animatronic miner sitting at the beginning of it. I wouldn't go in there if I was you. He does, of course, the greatest voices because it's James Adomian, and it is just so a delight. Funny. But that
when you're on the road right now, I mean, you're in the planes. People were tweeting all over today about the fact that I'm
flying tomorrow.
Yeah, that they made a celebratory announcement on the flights that you can now remove your mask, and there was a mixture of cheering and people ripping up masks, like it was.
Like it was VD, like VD day, not VD. Would have been VE. Anyway, it was like it was like STD day. Anyway, no, it was like somebody won a war, and you're like, "There's no war. This is the dumbest civil war I've ever even read about."
So stupid.
It is such a weird civil war that we're having. There are no costumes. People are not lining up. It's just, I'm going to wander into a public situation and shoot a bunch of people because they're all gay or brown or short or some fucking thing that I hate. And then, and so now it's all, and the anti-maskers are part of the people who are on the other side of the Civil War, where you're just like, I'm doing this joke, which is it? So far, I'm doing this premise, and it is that there are two kinds of people who won't wear masks in the airport, and they are men and women.
Yeah.
The non-binary are available to wear a mask. They're like, I don't care. Sure. Yeah. But some men and some women, and the women are the most obnoxious because they're both obnoxious, but the way the women are, I'm more offended because I'm a woman. And I have spent my entire life defending and trying to police women and trying to make women not sort of, and I've only been doing it for white people for about 10 years. Like people of color have had to sort of apologize and sort of police their own communities for the last 500 years. White people, only 10 years, and women, me for the last 40 odd years, where I'm just like, they're like, you're going to vote for Phyllis Schlafly, right? And I was like, she's a hater. I'm not voting for someone who hates that much. She's full of shit. And so I'm at the airport, no mask, civil disobedience, wandering around, essentially they're like battered wives who are like, you think I can't take a punch? And you're like, oh my God, you're killing me and you're not helping. And then the guys all have the under the nose shitwits. Right now masks are optional in New York. Obviously on the subway, that's where you see most of the public in a confined space and they are making choices. And so I will just always wear a mask, maybe on the subway forever. And, there's some, but I just keep noticing there's guys on the subway
master optional, but they have it under their nose. It's like, hey, just take it off. Like, I don't even understand what you're doing right now. No one's,
right,
no one's policing this.
Right, no one's policing. Yeah, you're making you're like my brothers when I was like 11 going, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. You can't narc on me. I'm not touching you. You can't narc on me. And I'm like, you're killing me. And I was just like, how about just don't. And I always under the nose. This is the only thing that's actually been working is I want to go up to them and go, got your nose. Got your nose. Got your nose. And then I want to make the devil's horns and go, now the devil's got your nose. Now the devil's got your
That's
nose.
right. Yeah. That's right. The devil called Omicron, whatever. B7.
B7.
So,
bingo.
Do you also find that when you go into hotels now, do you find them dirty?
They're back to not being as clean. I will say that. Yes, they're back to. I'm like, why is there a pen underneath this bed? I'm like, it will affect the tip. You seriously have to do one more sweep, and I suppose I should just bring wipes, right? And I know because Tracy Ashley, great comic, she just had a special. She was in the first season of that They Ready series.
Yeah.
And she's a Minneapolis comic, but she lives here. She's a writer. She's not returning my calls. Anyway, she did a Dork Forest about The Sims. But she's very busy now. She's very, very important.
She's building things.
She's building things. She's affecting change at a grassroots level. But anyway, she used to, when she traveled, she was like Todd Glass, where she would clean the place before she cleaned the place. After they cleaned the place, she would clean the place, and then she would have a blow up mattress that she would put on top of the bed. I mean, like literally bring her own linens, like some sort of Victorian Duchess. And I was like, do it, own it, make it your own. And then I would always joke, I was like, well, I'm building an immune system.
Yes.
Am I?
Mm-hmm.
Am I?
Are you? Yeah.
All I know is I have a stack of COVID tests, and I took 2 the other day because I did 2 shows here, and in both shows they said that people had got the variant.
Yeah.
I've never had it.
Oh my goodness, you're one of those people in the articles that they're like, these people have never had it.
They've never had it. I had a shitty cold about 5 months ago, and I took a bunch of tests, and I was like, no, it turns out it's just a shitty cold. And then I lost everyone's sympathy. Everyone's like, you're still gonna do the shows. And I'm like, no, if you have a bad cold, you still don't go to work because you have a cold and you don't feel well. And they're like, yeah, you don't have the COVID though. Go to work. And I'm like, I don't like.
I know.
Oh well.
I know that you spend 2/3, I would say, of the year on the road in the past. Is that about right?
Yeah, about 40 weeks.
40 weeks?
Yeah. When I was home for 16 months in a row because of lockdown.
Yeah.
It turns out I fell in love with that.
Yeah, you got a dog.
Yeah, we went and got a dog.
It's hard to travel.
I have obligatory new dog jokes. So you guys, I'm going to be everywhere. I'm going to be in Houston, Seattle. Go to JackieKashian.com, see the lineup, and come. I'm doing Acme in July in Minneapolis.
Oh, that's the best one. Is that the best one?
That and Comedy Store, Comedy Works rather in Denver. Those are my 2 favorites. Even though I do love. There's a dozen other clubs that are great. Then there's a bunch of clubs that I just work. Anyway, so God love them. I'm opening for Brian Regan in a couple of months, doing New Hampshire and New Jersey and somewhere in Massachusetts.
Nice.
Doing a weird East Coast thing. Yeah.
Yeah, you are back in full speed.
Yeah, I forgot to stop, Ophira. So we come out of lockdown in like March of it was I believe the first weekend of May, like the end of April, beginning of May of 2021 probably.
Yeah.
I open and I need 10 weeks. I need 10 weeks to get my chops back so I can record the new album and the new special. And so I do it at Acme in July of 2021. And then it comes out in November of 2021. But after July of 2021, I could have come back home. I do not. Instead, I keep going on the road like it's all over. And eventually, like I get it. Like I can what I will say about this pandemic is that I wash my hands better and more than I've ever washed them in my life. Turns out I'm filthy. I am a dirty. It is gross. And 20 seconds is the right amount of time to be washing my hands. And how did they get so? I didn't do anything. And
I know sometimes I wash my face and I was like, was I in a mine? Because what is coming off my face is like an inch of coal.
And a dead canary. What? That's so weird.
Why is there a dead canary in my bag?
Oh my God, I miss you. So, but I am going to come to New York. I want to come to New York this summer.
Yeah.
Because I like it. I love New York in the summer, even though it's sometimes stinky.
Stifling and stinky.
It's hot and stinky, but I saw The Gilded Age on Fast Forward. I know what it's all about. Did you watch The Gilded Age at all?
No, I mean, no, I didn't, but I can imagine what it is.
Fast Forward.
Okay, on Fast Forward. That's just hilarious.
And I watched, I watched the second season of Bridgerton more than once on regular speed. It is craptastic. Hello.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. No, that's something I have to look forward to. So you've got touring on your own. You're touring with Brian Regan. Got a new special out. You're still doing 2 podcasts.
Yeah.
Every week.
I'd like to write a book. My mother-in-law's moving in.
Oh, what?
Yes.
Oh.
I love my mother-in-law with the power of the sun, but our house is very small. But she's had a bad turn with her arthritis and like some sort of pain management. So she's super tippy, and so she's having a hard time kind of being alone. And she was just going to move down to LA from the middle of California. She was going to move down here, and we were going to get her like a senior apartment where they had art classes, and it was going to be great. And it was going to be super fun. She was going to be in the neighborhood. But during lockdown, we started driving up toward Visalia, which is about 3 hours from here. 1 day a week, we would drive up, have lunch out in the backyard in the heart of lockdown until like the 3rd week when I said, she has to be in our pod. She has to be in our pod because I want to hug her. So she was in our pod, and we would go up and have lunch and do chores, but it would be a 6-hour day. It would take the whole day because we'd drive up, have lunch.
Oh yeah.
Do some chores, drive back. And so we did that for 2 years. And then about 2 months ago is when she had a bad spike in sort of her health. So now I'm cleaning out the guest room. And my mother-in-law is going to move in, which means I don't know what life is going to be like. But I grew up with 1 bathroom and 5 siblings, and
yeah. I mean,
so
it will be
what it is. Yeah,
it will be. Everyone adjusts. I mean, I do remember when we got a dog. I could say the same thing about a child, but much more complicated. But I remember when we got a dog, and it was a change of life, and all of a sudden I was, out with friends and saying things to them like, I got to go home to walk my dog.
Yeah.
It's like a real thing.
It's a real thing. The dog needs to go out unless you want to clean up after a dog.
Yeah, and you don't want to.
And then the dog feels bad. The dog genuinely does, yeah.
No, you're a bad owner. Don't do it. If that's what you want to do, if you want to shirk that responsibility, don't have a dog. Like, it's a trade-off. And I remember people who didn't have a dog were just like, oh my God, like, how do you adjust? And the truth is, when you love something, you just adjust.
You just adjust. Yeah. And I just spent 2 days, like, Andy's essentially living with her right now. And has been for a couple of weeks while we figure out this guest room business. And I just went up, conjugal visit. But I just I'm kidding. Or am I? Anyway, so I just spent a couple of nights up there hanging out. And the 3 of us had a lovely, she was in some pain and she had a couple of, bad spikes and stuff, and and it's a drag, but we're gonna bring her down here, and I gotta get we gotta change all of her doctors. So I kind of want to. It's Los Angeles. Someone, that's their job, right?
Oh, yeah.
There has to be a medical advocate that I can hire that can go, please tell me how we do this. And then got to deal with her house up there. She lives in the boons, so it's not like she has a house in Las Vegas and it's worth, $1.1 million. It's just a normal house. So, but we have to empty it and sell it, and then she'll live off that money.
Airbnb?
We're not going to Airbnb Exeter, California. By the way, if you ever go to the Sequoia National Park in California, the cutest town in that area is Exeter, California.
I'm telling you, Airbnb. I'm not trying to complicate your life.
You are complicating my life by suggesting I Airbnb her fucking house.
Would you like to also rent a hotel on the side? Were you thinking?
Right. What else are you thinking of doing? I want to write the romance novel where Elon Musk and J.K. Rowling meet on an island off the coast of Vietnam, fall in love, and become better people.
Oh, can it be called Cancel Island?
Yes. And then
it's
Mark
like an island where everyone finally put people that are canceled. We can't figure out what to do with them. It's luxury resort, basically.
Right. Well, all we can think to do with them is give them a lot of money.
Exactly.
I know they've been canceled, but is it okay? Does it feel better if we give you this giant stack?
Can we just give them more attention? Is there a way to give them more attention? Because I love that. I love that they become better people. Aww.
Yeah, they're billionaires. They should be better people. It doesn't cost you anything to become a better person, and you still get to be a billionaire. Anyway.
No. Yeah, well, aspirations. I actually said to someone the other day, because they were like, billionaires, it's just corrupt. They're all, no one becomes a billionaire being a nice person. And I said, no one even becomes a millionaire being a nice person. And they were like,
oh, shit.
I was like, wow.
Wow. Oh.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. My brother Russ was telling me that he was like, I asked my father-in-law what he wanted, what his goal in life was. And it's the same goal as my goal. And I was like, you have a life goal? What's your life goal?
Yeah.
And he said,
what is this?
That my grandchildren are millionaires.
Wow.
Weird.
Kind wasn't in there.
The weird thing about my brother Russ is that he is actually one of the most decent, philanthropic dudes in the world. But it's such a weird, my entire family is obsessed with money. I'm not gonna, it is genuinely, but it's such a, my father's like, there's always going to be more money. And it doesn't matter the number. He's like, well, what does it cost? 23 grand? There'll always be another 23 grand. And you're like, will there? And I remember I was like 14 or 15 and I said to him, how do you know that? And he said, because I have 6 kids. There has to be. I'll be right back. I got to find $100.
And you're like, oh, so someone's going to give you that and that's going to be us.
You feel, because he has to believe that. And then everyone is in sales. It's such a weird.
Yeah. My mother, I wouldn't say she died penniless, but close.
Yeah, my dad's super broke. Yeah.
Yeah, but she was always like, the money doesn't matter. And and that's just a way to live.
Yeah, and you do live and it's interesting. I remember, I think it was my sister who explained it to me. She was like, when you lend somebody money, you've given it to them. And they will either give it back to you or not give it back to you. But here's what happens when you hand them that money. You no longer have any say over what they do with that money. That money is gone. And if you want to try to control that money, puppeteer wise, from afar, you're just going to drive yourself nuts. So when you give somebody money, you just got to let it go. And I was like, okay. And what I'm saying is that everyone in my family has had interesting lessons about money, but I never knew that it was a life goal of people. And he said that his dad, his father-in-law, super wasp dude, right? Not Armenian. And so super waspy dude was like, I want my grandchildren to be millionaires.
That's amazing.
Like, what a weird, very Gilded Age kind of thing.
Yeah. It is sort of like, so said in a different way, it's so funny because when someone says, I want my grandchildren to be millionaires, I will say my reaction is, that's gross. There's something gross about that. And then I just go, oh my goodness, I wish my grandparents would have said that about me, because it would have been a better place right now. Maybe I would take a few more risks on stage. Okay. Maybe I would take a few more risks.
Right. I need to.
But if said a different way, if he were to say, I want my grandchildren to not have to worry about owning a house.
Yeah. Which is what he means.
Which is what he means.
Except for that that everybody in my family has a spreadsheet. So, it's just like, well, might as well say it like it is. And you're like, okay, but the way you just said it was gross. But if you said, I wish they didn't have to worry about where, living indoors or whatever, it would sound more noble.
Do you have a spreadsheet?
Yes.
You have a spreadsheet?
I have the worst spreadsheet. Like, there's varying degrees of spreadsheet in my family. And Andy loves a spreadsheet. So I don't actually have to have a spreadsheet because Andy has a spreadsheet.
Oh, yeah.
What I do is I do keep pretty close tabs on what is happening. Like the new album and the new special. This is the first album where I did a split, like a sound exchange split with the label. And it's affected what I make on that. It's affected a great deal of what I make on the album so far. But supposedly it will pay off a year from now in movement, in some sort of other way.
Because it's like placement over time or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I hear what you're saying. I also married a spreadsheet, by the way. Oh. That was one of the most attractive qualities. I was like, how good are you at Excel?
Well, he even knows how to write that. You do the equals and then parenthetic. And I was like, oh, you actually know the formulas? Good for you, my friend.
And you gather all the columns or all the cells. So fun. So again, you were talking about your brother talking about life philosophy. Is that something like, I actually was recently talking to a bunch of comics about what's your life philosophy. We actually had this conversation. I don't know what's happening to us. And I was actually very surprised by their reactions because it was a couple guys who were super nice guys. And they said, different versions of to be as generous as possible.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing is I have drama right now in my life, which I cannot talk about. But one of the things that I was told by sort of a mentor, like a spiritual, I have a mentor, and
I want a mentor.
And she said, "Well, I'm
glad you have one."
Right? She was like, "You should pray for them, these people that are being mean to you." And I was like, "I don't want to. I don't." And she's like, "Yeah, well, then you're just going to be resentful and angry, and they're going to take up a lot of real estate in your brain box. But if you pray for them like once or twice a day, when you're starting to drift that way, and just wish for them what you wish for yourself, it should dissipate your fear and anxiety about it." And I was like, I will piss on a spark plug right now to dissipate my fear and anxiety, quite honestly. And so what I've been praying for, and when you pray for or meditate on it, much cooler way to put it, for someone else, for what you want, you then realize what you want. Mm-hmm. And what I want, it turns out, is peace of mind, a little bit of serenity, right? A little bit of peace of mind. And I want to make sure that I am acting out of kindness and patience and tolerance. And hit and miss, by the way, I mean, not always.
Yeah, of course.
Sometimes I have fear. Sometimes I act out of fear. Sometimes I act out of anger. Sometimes I act out of, which is just a spin-off of fear as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
And, but if I can, like, sometimes I'll write on my hand, patience, tolerance, kindness, and other times, guess what else I'll write? Listen.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of talk. Because I'm chatty, Ophira.
That's why I was saying that you're very social. And that's also like your style of stand-up is conversational. I mean, you're doing all the conversation, but it's conversational.
Yeah.
I know the listen thing. I even actually said to someone, and it's something I think about all the time, about the courage to listen to your audience. Very hard.
Oh, that is almost impossible.
It's very, very hard.
Like, I don't do any crowd work. I don't do any go to the audience. I am literally in TED Talk mode. I'm like, I've written these jokes. You're here to listen to them. Welcome to a theater experience. But people who can celebrate that silence.
Yeah. Oh, it's like my dream. That's my dream.
That's your dream.
So, okay. So how have you been doing this prayer or thought towards the situation? Have you been enacting that?
Yes.
For a week or two? 2 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how is it feeling?
It's good. It's good. It helps out. It doesn't make it go away forever. It keeps coming back, but it's less. Yeah. And I feel better about myself that I'm not wishing harm upon these people that are dumb. That are just not, because the thing, they're in pain too, right? They're just kind of broken. And so these people I just have to wish upon them a little peace of mind and serenity and some joy and happiness. And I hope it all works out away from me, but I hope it works out. And
yeah, the whole thing, what's the famous phrase, cliche saying where it's like you think you're poisoning someone else, but it's really you're drinking the poison?
Oh, right. Yeah. That's what resentment, right? And a refeel and the whole thing. I've read some hippie books, you guys. I'm not going to lie to you. I've read some hippie books about how to not drive myself nuts by other people and also try to be a decent human.
Yeah. Yeah. You call them hippie books. I believe it's just self-help.
Yes, and other people call them self-help.
And, I've never read self-help before until recently.
Yeah.
And I can't tell if that's the pandemic or the age I'm at or depression finally taking a turn where I was like, well, this is a new version. Or what? But I read them and I'll just go, okay. I mean, there's something to be taken out from them. But I like the idea of calling them hippie books.
Yeah. It makes
it a lot more appealing to me.
It really does. I'm like, do you want to see my rose quartz? Anybody want in on this? I'm hoping to sage the house before Chris moves in.
Little rose quartz, right? Are you talking about this little thing? I'm just holding up little rose quartz, people. It's a gift from someone.
I got some rocks.
So you're seriously thinking of writing a book? Mm. Is that true?
I have a couple of books. I have a couple of books in mind, which are kind of cool because I've always wanted to. Yeah. But of course, I've always wanted to have written a book instead of to actually write the book. But
yeah, daunting task, but I think a great one.
Yeah. It'd be fun. It'd be cool to do it, Because
you're actually a reader.
Mm-hmm. Which is half the battle, right? Hey, have you read this A Gentleman in Moscow book?
No, but I saw you talking about it, and I was like,
pattering on it. It's actually, I gave it to my dad. My sister-in-law gave it to me. I had a hard time getting into it until he meets the little girl. Try to make it to that point. Because the first, I don't know, it might even be 60 pages. But whatever it is, when he meets the little girl, it speeds up, and it's so beautiful. So,
okay. All right.
I was talking to my dad today, and he was like, I don't care about this rich guy living in an attic, Jackie. And I was like, did you meet the little girl yet? And he goes, no. And I said, just try to make it to the little girl, Dad.
Keep
and he's
going,
like,
Dad.
All right. He'll read almost any nonfiction book I send him. I sent him the first African-American jockey, the history of that guy. Because he likes horse racing. My father, a bit of a gambler. I sent him the history of Havana Nocturne was a book about how the mob tried to turn Havana into Las Vegas, but Castro took over Cuba instead, and they lost all their money. And what a drag that was. And he loved that book. He loved a book that my sister sent him that he then gave to me, which was a nonfiction book about Churchill, The Diaries of Everyone Around Churchill. I think I told you about this.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The Splendid and the Vile. Yes.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I feel like, Churchill is one of these characters in history that is often misquoted. Or quotes that are like Mark Twain, like he's known for these witty quotes and they get traded around.
Right. Where it's actually that comic. Who's that big fat comic that was in I'm not fat shaming W.C. Fields. It was like W.C. Fields and Churchill. They're like, he's doing those are W.C. Field lines. Churchill didn't say everything.
That's right. And every once in a while, it's like, no, it was Virginia Woolf, Jackie Kashian, I got to wrap this.
Yeah, we got to wrap.
I got to wrap this conversation. I could obviously talk to you all night, and I'm just disclosing to all of our listeners that it is evening here in New York, because that's when we figured out that it was the only time that we could get together to talk. I really don't have a spot tonight, and you just came home from town because you're about to leave to do spots.
Yep.
So I guess I will miss you in Austin.
I will miss you in Austin, but I hope to see you in New York this summer.
Yeah, have a great live Dork Forest. Everyone can find you on your website, which is JackieKashian.com.
Also, familypetancestry.com. I bought it. It points to JackieKashian.com. Find out if your cat came over on the Mayflower and if I'm going to be playing comedy in your town. Familypetancestry.com.
That's just so beautiful. That's so funny. I had humourousuterus.net for a while. That was pointing to my website.
Right, but that actually makes kind of stand-up comedy fun.
I know. I was just trying to think of like the worst thing you could call a female comic.
Comediette.
Comediette. I have not heard that one. I love that. Comediette. We march on, people. We march on. Well, I hope I get a chance to take over this podcast and interview you again, which was not an interview. It was a delightful conversation. And I feel like we went a lot of places that I didn't know we would go. So I still have 10 questions that I will ask you the next time.
Awesome. Love it.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Ophira, and thank you, Jackie Kashian. That was so great. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you listened to the whole thing as I did and got a lot out of it, enjoyed it. And I hope that you will go visit Jackie online. Thank her for joining me. Of course, thank Ophira for sitting in at Ophira E on Instagram and Twitter, and check out JackieKashian.com and follow her on Twitter at Jackie Kashian. Get her new album, and that's it, folks. That's what I've got for you today. I don't know if I'll be posting a podcast tomorrow. I have something up my sleeve. We will see what happens, but thank you very much for bearing with me and giving me some time off this week. Look forward to connecting with you again on Monday. John Carroll, take us out.
You've been sitting so long, you got the creaky knees, you got to stand up, stand up. I think you're driving wheels with leaking grease. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know what's right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You got to stand up, that's right. You got to rise up, you got to stand up, you got to stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear when all you hear is a lie. Don't get up off of your butt, get down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense. And you stand up, stand up. Point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. This is the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We got to let him know see them flee the scene of that experiment. If you stand up, all right, we got to speak up, we got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up and show obedience to the voice inside. And listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up.